Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's sohbet on this, the 24th of the 11th, 2025. Today, I would like to discuss a topic which is very timely and one which is a particular issue within today's society, indeed within many of our countries, not only within my own. The courage to listen. Britain today carries the weight of a very difficult decade. There's been polarization, extremism, public mistrust, and a lot of social anxiety. There are many people across our society today who are feeling unheard. Regardless what their beliefs are, their background, but especially those who have been through a lot of suffering, who have been less well off, and they are feeling unheard. But actually, people from all walks of life too. The Quran carries the remedy of this in a single ayah, single verse. If we go to Surah 39 in the Quran, verse 13. From verse 18, sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Those who listen to the word and follow the best of it, they are the people whom Allah has guided, and those are the ones endowed with understanding. Those who listen to the word. Listening is a spiritual practice for Muslims and people of many beliefs. And listening to the word, I know literally it's referring to the Holy Quran and more broadly to the other revealed scriptures. But it doesn't only refer to listening to the books, because good relations between people are deeply built around listening. When we stop listening, relations break. It doesn't matter whether that's a husband or wife, or friendship, community relations, but they all suffer when we stop listening. This is something which is also clear from Proverbs in the Bible. We go to Proverbs 18, verse 13. If one gives answer before hearing, it is folly and shame. If one gives answer before listening, before hearing, it gives folly and shame. It's folly and shame if we don't listen. Because how can you answer if you don't know what the other person has said? And yet, this is a mistake that I think all of us have made. It's not even something about this religion or that religion, or whether we think our religion is the right religion or not. It's a simple issue of human relations. But it is interesting that our religious books highlight this. And not just our religious books, or philosophers too. This is a universal religion. A universal religion? No. A universal wisdom that is known across all different religions and philosophies and traditions. It's found in the traditional wisdom of almost every community. But listening is given a special emphasis within our classical Islamic tradition. Listening is seen as a mujahada. A mujahada, I mean, you've heard of the word jihad, which means struggle or striving, often misapplied to the wrong contexts. Mujahada is a version of that word. And it means a struggle of the ego. The Prophet listened with full presence, even to those who spoke harshly or with confusion. It's an adab which is within all of our madhabs that teaches restraint before response, and especially within the Sufi tariqas. The wisdom of the Sufis values silent attention before speaking. This is why we have such an emphasis on dhikr and salawat, of focusing inwardly, recognizing my own faults before I try and point the finger at anyone else. Remember, if you point the finger, there's 3 pointing back. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, in Surah 17, verse 53. And say to my servants that they speak that which is best. And he continues, surely Satan shows dissensions among them. Surely Satan is a clear enemy to humankind. So this kind of, when you're having a conversation with someone and it descends into unnecessary argument, this is literally what Allah is referring to here in the Quran. Surely Satan sows dissensions among them. Surely Satan is making a trouble between people because they're not listening. They're not listening and they're not understanding each other. Say to my servants that they speak that which is best. But how can you speak that which is best if you haven't heard what was said? Again, how can you respond to it? You have to hear what was said first in order to respond to it in any constructive manner. This is something that even Marcus Aurelius knew, who was, he's just a Roman emperor, but he was a man of wisdom, he was a philosopher. Marcus Aurelius also said very similar thing. He said, if any man is able to convince me and show me that I do not think or act right, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth by which man was ever injured. But he who is injured, who abides in his error and ignorance. So in this, Marcus Aurelius is saying, if someone can convince him that he's wrong, then he will be ready to change. Even he was a Roman emperor. I mean, try convincing some of our leaders today that they are wrong and getting them to change. And how? How will he be convinced? He has to listen. He knew listening with humility, not defensiveness, was the important thing. And that is what has become such a rare skill today. In modern Britain, people across society are feeling uncertain. They're worried about extremism, cultural change, economic pressures, especially at the moment. And economic pressures often lead to other things such as rising hostility within public spaces, discrimination, people scapegoating various communities for their own issues. And much of the pain in the social fabric of society comes not from the disagreements themselves, but from ridicule, from suspicion, and the habit of talking past one another. The person is speaking, you're speaking past them, or vice versa. And of course, when people are doing that, they're both doing that, instead of listening. What does Allah tell us about this in the Holy Quran? In Surah 49, verses 11 to 12, Allah tells us, O you who believe, let not a group laugh, scoff at one another, for they may be better than they, nor women laugh at other women, for they may be better than they. And do not defame your own people, nor call one another by nicknames. Bad is the reputation of wickedness after that of faith. And he who does not repent, then such are wrongdoers. O you who believe, avoid much suspicion. Surely some suspicions are sins. And spy not, neither backbite one another. Would you like to eat the flesh of his dead brother? The point being here is to listen, to not assume bad about one another, and to not descend into ridicule. Appreciate that people have different perspectives, different understandings. They may have a different focus on what they're doing. And these verses are speaking precisely to the present moment, a call to set aside assumptions, contempt, and reactive judgment. You know, reactive where people are just reacting to one another without thinking, without listening, without reflecting. How common is that today? Instead, we must listen with fairness. And this doesn't mean we necessarily agree. We might still completely disagree with each other, but at least if we listen, it means granting other people dignity, the dignity of being heard without prejudging them. And the Bible also, again, if we go back to the Bible, it has the same wisdom in it. If we go to the book, well, the book is actually a letter of James, chapter 1, verse 19. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. How true is that? Where does the anger lead? The anger leads to further hostility, further conflict, further problems. We have to listen, we have to appreciate each other's positions and understanding, even if we're disagreeing with them, and try to find some kind of common ground that we can work upon to improve the situation. Listening is not a passive action. It's actually something which is really courageous. Protecting the right to speak openly for our neighbors, for communities, for concerned citizens, it's essential for a healthy society. Silencing genuine fears doesn't dissolve them, it deepens them. As Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, Bismillah. As Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, in Surah 5, verse 8, O you who believe, stand up firmly for the sake of Allah to bear witness with justice, and let not the enmity of a people carry you away from being just. Let not the enmity of a people or the hatred of a people take you away from being just to them. A society that listens wisely protects both truth and stability. Britain has enjoyed extremism from all different angles. And if we look, what is the root of extremism? What is one of the problems that people are facing that leads to being, them becoming more extreme? It's people who are becoming disenfranchised and sidelined. They are not being listened to. They're not feeling that they are part of the society anymore. And that fuels anger within them. And this, it doesn't matter whether it's far-right extremism or other forms of extremism. This tends to be something that inflames all forms of extremism. With Islam, we can actually refer back to the Quran and find a wisdom in the Quran. And what is that wisdom? Well, it's in Surah 41, verse 34. And good and evil cannot be equal. Repel evil with that which is better, and behold, he between whom and you there was enmity will become as if he was a close friend. Repel evil with that which is better. Is that what we're doing today? And that's not directed to any particular community. I'm just meaning in general. Is that what we're doing today? Are we repelling evil with that which is better? Or are we perpetuating the evil? Are we just mirroring what other people are doing and then creating more conflict and more hostility within the society? We must challenge the harmful narratives with informed reasoning, calm moral intelligence, and the dignity of the prophetic character, or the dignity at least of an English gentleman or lady. This is how we challenge extremism. We cannot cancel everyone and just ignore them and pretend that their issues don't exist. But at the same time, we must not give in to those extremist narratives either, or to allow them to gain ground, because they are extremely dangerous and will destroy the whole fabric of society were they to fully take hold. The Buddha had something to say on this too, which parallels this. He said, better than reciting 100 verses that have no meaning is reciting one verse of the Dharma, which when heard produces peace. I.e., better than saying 100 things that have no meaning is saying one thing that produces peace. And this is the spiritual answer, part of the art of answering without hatred. But how can you answer without hatred unless you first listen? And listen to what is triggering people. Listen to what people's anxieties are and people's concerns. We may briefly mention the Prophet's wisdom, peace be upon him, in Medina, where he built a plural society through consultation rather than coercion. There wasn't force involved. He was invited to Medina. And within Medina, he got everyone to sign on to a set of principles that became the Constitution of Medina. Listening requires dignity. It restores. Listening restores dignity to those who feel ignored. In families, in workplaces, and public debates, people often want to simply be understood. And the Quran teaches a social responsibility here in Surah 49, verse 6. O you who believe, if a wicked person brings you any news, then have it clarified, lest you harm people out of ignorance. Then you become sorry for what you did. If you hear something, if some account comes to you, or you watch some clip or something, especially now with AI, and you see or you hear anything, first check the truth of it before you start getting upset about it and doing something that you may afterwards regret. Doesn't mean we don't act on it either. But at the same time, make sure that what we're acting upon is first true. And if we do find out it's true, that the way we respond is also constructive. If we respond in the wrong way, we're not going to get anything like the result that we want. Listening, therefore, prevents escalation It dissolves barriers and reveals the humanity behind the fear. Marcus Aurelius captured this spiritual stillness in his book Meditations. It is in our power to have no opinion about a thing, and not to be disturbed in our soul, for things themselves have no natural power to form our judgments. In other words, whatever we have been told, whatever we've heard, whatever's been brought to our attention, it's within our power to pause judgment. Doesn't mean we'll never have an opinion on it, but we don't have to form an opinion right there and then. Learn more first before you form an opinion, before you jump to conclusions, as my dad used to say. He always said, be careful of jumping to conclusions, Paul, because often when you jump to conclusions, they're wrong. Don't react before we've fully understood. In a country as diverse as Britain, listening across traditions is a cultural, it's a civic virtue, it's a responsibility. And wisdom is not confined to one people or one community or one country. Truths appear in many gardens and in many forms. A single line that runs throughout all of the spiritual traditions, throughout all cultures. It's that we must listen and understand, and not try to jump to conclusions or assume that other people are wrong. Before we've heard them out, before we've heard their truth, even if there's some conflict between what they are saying and what we're saying, if we don't listen to them, we won't find out where the problems really are. We won't find out what those issues are and then be able to resolve them. This line of wisdom is something which you will find within all of the communities, within all traditional societies, within all sacred texts, within all philosophies. When we listen, we train the heart not only to listen outwardly, but to also listen inwardly. So this is something which has an outward dimension in how we're actually responding to people within our society, and also depending on how we handle that situation will depend on the consequences of what we're doing. But it also has an inward dimension to it. To listen inwardly, to listen to our hearts. If we're too noisy, if we're always speaking over people, we're not listening to what our heart is saying. The noise around us becomes a noise within us too. Outrage, anger, fear, anxiety. Whereas stillness within the heart allows the heart to receive guidance and intuition. Buddha said something about this at the very beginning of this Dhammapada. Very first verse. All things have the nature of mind. Mind is the chief and takes the lead. If the mind is clear, whatever you do or say will bring happiness that will follow you like a shadow. And it's part of a two-part verse. The second part is all things have the nature of mind. Mind is the chief and takes the lead. If the mind is polluted, whatever you do or say leads to suffering, which will follow you as a cart trails a horse. Think about that. Clarity of mind. If there's a storm within the mind, there's a storm within the mind and within the heart. How are we going to do anything constructive? How are we going to find peace? How are we going to find clarity and focus to be able to tackle any issue? That clarity and focus comes from clarity of mind. a peaceful heart. It's a line, a tradition, a principle that runs through all of these faiths and philosophies. So before we jump to conclusions, before we jump to respond even, pause before replying. A moment of inward stillness. It can make all the difference between responding in a negative way and responding in a positive way. Ask yourself, what's the best interpretation of what this person is saying? Ask others to finish before formulating your own response. When facing harmful ideas, answer with knowledge and calmness. Hold no opinion until the truth becomes clear. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran that truth stands clear from falsehood. But until you see that truth coming through and you're sure it is, then pause on the opinion. And practice the Quranic ethic to say what is best when you do speak. Listening is not weakness. It is a moral strength, a civic responsibility, and leads to spiritual clarity. Listening protects free speech. Listening dissolves tension. Listening challenges extremisms wisely. And listening opens the heart to God. And it is the mark of those whom God describes in Surah 39, verse 18. Those who listen to the word and follow the best of it, they are the people whom Allah has guided. I hope you found this useful and food for thought. Wherever you are, I wish you a very good evening. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And if you enjoy these videos and you enjoy the content, then please like and subscribe. And also there's a Buy Me a Coffee link. If you can subscribe and to sponsor that, that will allow me to focus on producing better content and focus on producing the content rather than on other things. So please consider doing that. And if not, at least like and subscribe. And feel free to share these videos and my content with other people who you feel may find benefit in doing so. I wish you all the very best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.